I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Silly Jedi! Silly Jedi!
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Hey everybody, welcome to Jedi Toy Masters Star Wars Card Talk. And, well, a lot has happened since the last episode. We had a slew of announcements in the world of toys as the New York Toy Fair 2020 took place last weekend here in New York at the Jacob Javits Center. And, you know, all the toy companies, all the big companies were out to show all their latest and greatest, and in some cases, the latest repackaging. So, you know, we did a video on his channel on Jedi Toy Masters. If you check it out, you can check it out on our YouTube channel, and you can see I did a kind of like a kids reaction video where I showed my son's images of a lot of the new toys that are coming out in 2020, and the different series of Star Wars toys coming out, from everything from like the vintage collection to the Black Series to the retro collection, which we're getting wave 2 of that this year, to a couple of board games that are Star Wars related, to a Yoda baby doll that moves and laughs and cries that's coming out also, as well as a new line of toys that Hasbro says are going to come out this year called Mission Fleet. And we talked about it last week. And so we have a video up on our YouTube channel. Please check it out. If you're joining us in podcast form, thank you for listening to us. I keep saying us because the hope is that one day there'll be someone sitting next to me here in the car. Now, we have had a guest on before, so we're hoping to do that in this near future, have guests on. So I'm going to stop saying us because that's just weird. One of the things that I hope you do if you enjoy this podcast, or if you just stumbled onto this podcast, is that you subscribe to it. And if you're listening to it on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, please give us a review, give us a good rating, because that really helps, kind of like the Apple podcasting algorithm. It really helps get your podcast out. So I'm really trying to grow this podcast into something special, even though I think it's pretty special right now, because it's kind of it's intimate, you know, where you're listening to it on the ground floor. And, you know, one day we'll have George Lucas sitting next to me right here, and we get to ask him all the questions that we're burning to ask him, like, what's your favorite breakfast meal? Or cereal. What's your favorite cereal? Anyway, so Toy Fair 2020 took place. That's it. That's all she wrote. It's done. And now we can move on to other things that are Star Wars and look forward to, you know, the toys that are going to come out hopefully later this year. I know some figures and things of that nature are going to be coming out in the spring. We have some stuff coming out later in the summer, and then in the fall, and then obviously, you know, in the spring we have May 4th. May the 4th be with you, and that's a big Star Wars day. So a lot of releases probably coming out that day, and then also you have Force Friday, which is interesting because there isn't anything releasing this winter or this fall as far as films. So it'll be interesting to see what there'll be for Force Friday this year. But more than likely, it'll be some of the stuff that they announced already. So before I move on to what this video or this episode is actually about, I just wanted to say that, you know, one of the things that is really, really bugging me, and has been for quite some time, and you know, I mentioned it last week in last week's episode. If you didn't check out last week's episode, you can check it out in the playlist up there. I always forget where, but or you can check out the links below for a list of the rest of the episodes. And with regard to toys, it's just that, you know, it's as much fun as the thrill of the hunt is, you know, the whole idea of toy hunting. I mean, I think it's like a little phenomenon that's happened, I don't know, over the last few years. And a lot of YouTube channels have birthed out of the idea of toy hunting, and collectors, adult collectors, and even collectors like myself with kids. It's become a family affair to go out and you know, hunt for those figures that you hear rumors, you saw pictures on Instagram, and you say, oh, we might find a vintage collection Mandalorian. They're starting to hit some Walmarts, and then you go to your Walmart and nothing. And that happened to us. We actually have a video on our YouTube channel as well where we went on a toy hunt. We went to go visit my parents that live in upstate New York, and on the way there's 2 Walmarts. So we stopped at 2 Walmarts and nothing. Nada. So that seems to be the case a lot of times, and a lot of the comments that I'm getting on YouTube and even on Instagram is it's slim pickings out there, and it's so, you know, stores get such limited runs of figures, and then some random stores will end up getting an excess of figures, and you never know which one will get which. I remember when the first wave of the retro line figures for Star Wars, you know, New Hope came out. I didn't see them for a while. I kept seeing pictures of people posting, you know, pictures online. Oh, I found these at Target. I found these, whatever. And then all of a sudden at my local Target, I saw the entire wave. And I foolishly didn't pick them up. I think I only picked up like 2 figures. And because I really wasn't thinking about collecting them. I wasn't really thinking about picking them up. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, man, these are actually kind of cool. You know, because I'm never going to go out and try to collect all of the original vintage figures and just have my completed sets like a lot of guys do, a lot of collectors do. I'm not going to go out and do that. You know, I don't have the resources for that, nor the patience to go out and hunt for mint condition loose figures that have all their accessories and all that. So the next best thing is really this retro line, because you get to have these classic looking figures, and they're new, you know, so you don't have to worry about damaging them. They're, you know, whatever. Or if you want to leave them in the case, you want to leave them sealed, they make beautiful display pieces as well if you know, have like a Star Wars room or your office or whatever. But all that to say is that my local Target had them. I didn't grab them. I only grabbed 2. I regretted it. But then, like a few weeks later, I go to a different Target that's in my area, and surely enough, they had an excess. I mean, it was like the pegs were jam-packed with these retro figures. Like they had gotten like excess boxes of them, and they put them out. And that week, that Target had them on sale. Had Star Wars figures were on sale. It was like, I think, buy one get one half off. So I picked up the rest of that line, as well as a couple of vintage figures that I wanted that were there as well. They had a bunch of Han Solo and the Stormtrooper disguise. So, you know, it's such a silly game that we have to play now with toy stores or toy sections of stores, where you don't know what quantity the store is going to get, and it's just become such a hassle when you have the complete intention of going to a store and buying something. Like, you're going to a store with the intention of buying something that store is supposed to have, and when you go time and time again and there's nothing, it's like, you know, it's a little disheartening and frustrating. And man, you know, I mean, it's like, imagine going to the supermarket and, all right, I'm out of milk. I'm going to the supermarket. Oh, they don't have any milk. And then you go back a couple days later and they still don't have any milk. And you keep seeing pictures of people online saying, oh man, you know, I just picked up like 2 gallons of milk. This is great. I love milk. And you're like, man, I don't understand. Why doesn't my supermarket have milk? That's what this equates to. It's just ridiculous. Like, there are people out there that want to buy your products. They want to buy these figures. Why don't we have them in the stores? Anyway, that's my little rant, my little toy rant, because of Toy Fair 2020. And you can check out our toy hunt video on our YouTube channel, and as well, you can also check out last week's episode where I kind of gave my little rant on that as well. And you could also check out the kids reaction video we did where I showed my boys all of the new toys that are coming out, and they reacted to them, and boy did they react. So check it out. I'll put links to the videos in the description below. So now I wanted to touch on this one thing this week, which is Disney has announced, and I think it's already available for pre-order at like places like Best Buy and what have you, and that is the complete box set of all of the Star Wars films, the Saga collection films, that is. So episodes 1 through 9 are now being repackaged in this collector's box set for $250. Somebody that I follow on Instagram that I really like, and also here on YouTube, and that's Retro Blasting. They are an amazing channel. Michael French does a great job. He is a toy collector. He's a vintage toy collector of toys from the 70s and 80s, and and some modern stuff. But he does these great analysis videos. He does great, almost like a lot of times kind of like documentary style videos on a lot of the history of these toy lines. Another great channel is Toy Galaxy. They do a lot of really great videos on the history of certain toy lines and the history of certain cartoons, and I really enjoy what they do. You check them out on Instagram as well. But Retro Blasting, they recently put out a video kind of bashing the this box set, and in kind of like a sarcastic but yet very informative way. And then like a day or two later, he took the video down and he did a rebuttal video because he had gotten some comments about, oh, well, your information wasn't that accurate regarding the film's formats. But then he did another video where he basically broke it down and explained why he actually is correct. And it was very fascinating. So I encourage you to check out, I believe both videos are up again on his YouTube channel. So check those out as well. But the thing with this box set that is just like, it's going back to the well. I mean, Star Wars has a history, a very well documented history of re-releasing these films in new formats, in new media, in new packages over and over again. And we, the Star Wars fans, we're suckers for it. It worked the most with the original trilogy. It hasn't really worked with, I think, the prequel trilogy, and I don't think it'll really work with the sequel trilogy, because now we live in a time where you can already watch all these films if you have Disney Plus. And if you're a Star Wars fan and you really want to see The Mandalorian and you really want to see Clone Wars, then chances are you already have a subscription to Disney Plus. And on Disney Plus, you can see all the films. Granted, it's in a compressed format because it's streaming, but it's a really good compressed format where most HD TVs that you have at home can do a really good job at presenting these films, especially the original trilogy films that are actually almost like a quasi upscaled 4K version of the films. And that's because George Lucas, before he sold to Disney, he rumor has it, he was prepping to have these movies re-released in 3D. If you guys remember, many years ago, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, was released in 3D, and it didn't do so well. It didn't necessarily flop because it's a movie that was being re-released, but it didn't do well enough to merit all the other films getting a 3D release, and George Lucas kind of scrapped the idea. But rumor has it that he was already working on getting all the other films prepped for 3D, for that 3D conversion. And part of that prep was having the original trilogy kind of like rescanned and kind of upscaled from the negatives, from the original negatives, from what I understand. Most movies we see in theater are actually in 2K, and that's because they're not 35mm, they're shot digitally and they're projected digitally. Regardless of what your theater says, it's not 4K, at least not yet. You know, similarly, when Attack of the Clones came out, that was the first time that cinemas, movie theaters, had to kind of like upgrade their systems to digital projectors, because Attack of the Clones was one of the first films that had a digital release in theaters. It had a 35mm release for the majority of theaters, but then certain theaters that had digital ability, they did the digital release. And if you want to learn more about Attack of the Clones and that whole deal, listen to Blast Points had a great episode recently where they're kind of walking through the entire Star Wars saga, movie by movie, every month. And this month they're talking about Attack of the Clones, so check that out. If you're a Star Wars fan, chances are you already have all of these films in VHS form, in DVD form, and you probably already purchased the Blu-ray release that came out prior to the Disney acquisition. That includes the prequels and the original trilogy. I think that's a pretty decent set. At the end of the day, is it worth spending $250 to basically own 9 movies, of which you probably only really like 3 to 4 of them, let's be honest, that are kind of just repackages of discs that already exist? They're just burned on new discs with new packaging. They include special features that are already readily available on other discs or on the internet. And, you know, a nice box with like a little booklet or something. I mean, is that really worth $250? Now, if you're like a new Star Wars fan, or if you grew up with the prequels and you don't really, you know, you don't really have a lot of versions of these, like maybe you only have like the DVD versions of like the prequels and the original trilogy, and you know, and like let's say, okay, well I have these, but I've been waiting not to buy the sequel trilogy on Blu-ray because I'm waiting for like a set like this. Are you telling me that I shouldn't get it? Absolutely not. If you have no physical copies of the films, then by all means, and you want to have this collector's set to, you know, display proudly on your DVD shelf or Blu-ray shelf or wherever you keep your you know, your Star Wars books and stuff, then yeah, I mean, if you got the $250 to spend, then by all means get it. And please let us know, was it worth it? Do they look any different? Are they great? I personally will not be buying that. I've been collecting the Steelbook editions of all of the new Disney movies. Best Buy seems to be the only one that actually sells them. So I picked up The Force Awakens, the Steelbook edition. I picked up Rogue One Steelbook edition. And I picked up The Last Jedi Steelbook edition. However, I to this day can't find the Solo film of the Steelbook edition. I've seen it on eBay, I've seen it in other places, but people are asking ridiculous amounts of money for this. It was like quickly released in Best Buy, and then quickly like it was gone. So that's the only one that I'm missing from my little Steelbook Disney era Star Wars collection. If anybody out there knows how to get a good, decent shaped copy of the Steelbook edition of Solo, I would love to have it, even though Solo isn't like the best Star Wars movie. And again, we can watch all these movies on Disney Plus now, but you know, the completist in me really wants to have that. And I'll probably pick up the Rise of Skywalker Steelbook edition as well. I just wanted to kind of give my 2 cents on that. What do you guys think? I just want to leave it, kind of create an open forum for this here. Especially on the YouTube channel. If you're watching this, please let's start a discussion in the comments below. What do we think about this box set? And if you check out Retro Blasting's video analysis of it, comment on their video. Let them know that we sent you. I sent you. Check those videos out. I'm gonna link all of them below. Check it out, and let's talk about it in the comments below. If you're listening to this on podcast form, I encourage you to hit me up on Instagram at Jedi Toy Masters and let me know in the comments. DM me. I'll do a post on this episode. You can comment below that post as well. What do we think about this Star Wars box set? Will this be the definitive box set? Or do you think maybe a couple of years down the line we'll end up with like the real box set, and maybe Disney will actually, you know, do a little bit of an investment and go back and rescan these films from the 35mm prints, the ones that are available, and really do a restoration of these films so that we have them in the highest quality possible. That would be fantastic. I know there's a lot of people that really wish and really hope that the original trilogy would be re-released in their original form, which is basically the 35mm prints, clean prints of the films as they were released in 77, 80, and 83. So that would be amazing as well. To this day, we really don't have that. We have 4K 77, which is kind of like a fan-made version that's really good. I've seen it, and it's nice and clean and crisp. But it would be nice to have Lucasfilm really do it themselves, you know, and do that restoration the right way and put it out there. I mean, there's definitely a market for it. Fans will buy it up. If fans buy up this $250 box set, hopefully that shows Disney that, yeah, fans are still suckers for buying and rebuying these movies over and over again in different media just to have it. Just to have it. So what do you guys think? Let's talk about it in the comments below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you're listening to it, please make sure you give us a nice review on iTunes. And as always, may the force be with you.